Happy Monday, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army. Hope you had a great weekend, a great 4th of July weekend for our American viewers. It's kind of the reversal of the moral order right now. Bitcoin, and by extension the rest of cryptocurrency, actually had a strong weekend, which historically has been rare in the crypto space. So BTC, and with its gravitational pull, effectively bringing up all of cryptocurrency over Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up until kind of Sunday evening, at least Eastern Standard Time. As you can see now, unfortunately, we're beginning the week in the red, down 4.9%. Bitcoin down a couple $1,000s, actually down 5% in these last 24 hours, and other altcoins bleeding similarly. Now, this has to do with a couple of different variables. We're going to be discussing both. As you guys know, I'm not the biggest chartist in the world. I think news has much more of a significant and acute impact in terms of price performance, whether to the upside, by the way, or to the downside. But in this case, I think we have a culmination. We have not only the fact that Bitcoin met and then failed to surpass a key resistance point, but in these last 24 hours or so, the major story that also exacerbated everything has been this new wave of ransomware attacks, unfortunately. And I think it's pretty unfair. The media already seems to be calling out the fact that these purportedly Russian hackers responsible for hitting 200 companies are requesting X amount of money in Bitcoin and all this stuff, and they're specifically linking it to cryptocurrency. Look, if I, was a hacker and I said, you must pay me in beachfront property, there wouldn't be a FUD attack on real estate. But that's how it is for Bitcoin. Bitcoin isn't responsible for the hack. It just happens to be, whether you agree with it or not, the asset with which these so-called hackers want to be paid. And yes, I know you can argue that's because it's more feasible to do it and it's the sort of thing that's facilitated by cryptocurrency. There are some arguments to be made there. But it's not Bitcoin's fault that these 200 companies were attacked during a pretty patriotic time, right? 4th of July weekend, and this is the fallout that we're now having to deal with. So we'll take a look at all that, guys. If you like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and altcoins, be sure to like and subscribe to Altcoin Buzz News. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit. We're on NBCnews.com. If you've not heard about this at all, it's a major story that's blown up in these last 24 hours. Ransomware attack on software manager hits 200 companies. Kaseya, an international company that remotely controls programs for companies, said it was attacked by hackers and warned all customers to immediately stop using its service. Yikes. A successful ransomware attack on a single company has spread to at least 200 organizations and likely far more. That's according to cybersecurity firm Huntress Labs, making one of the single largest criminal ransomware sprees in history. The attack, first revealed Friday afternoon, is believed to be affiliated with the prolific ransomware gang Revil, that's R-E-V-I-L, and perpetuated through Kaseya, which is an international company that remotely controls programs for companies that, in turn, manage internet services for businesses. It's unbelievable how connected we all are, how interconnected everything is. In my opinion, overconnected, because the trade-off is that you have the convenience. I don't know exactly what Kaseya does in this case, but assuming they offer some form of convenience, but the trade-off is that it's way too centralized for them to be in charge of that much wealth and that many assets by extension. For them to be that exposed is a security trade-off. So that convenience is not worth it. And yet we kind of assume that it is by default in today's age. And as I was hinting at a moment ago, the timing of all this just ahead of the 4th of July weekend is unlikely to be a coincidence. Ransomware hackers often time their attacks to start at the beginning of a holiday or weekend to minimize the number of cybersecurity professionals who might be able to quickly jump in and stop the malicious software spreads. Few American companies have come forward as victims so far, but a person familiar with some victims said that they included large New Jersey educational services company, a large company that is, an outpatient surgical center in South Carolina, and a mid-size firm in Florida. NPR.org, by the way, along with just about every other media outlet, is covering this. A colossal ransomware attack hits hundreds of U.S. companies. That's according to what a security firm was quoted as saying. So again, the Revil gang, which is right now, we understand to be a major Russian-speaking ransomware syndicate, appears to be behind the attack. That's according to John Hammond, the security firm Huntress Labs. He said the criminals targeted a software supplier called Kaseya, as you guys know, and as we just discussed. Quote, Kaseya handles large enterprises all the way to small businesses globally. So ultimately, this has the potential to spread to any size or scale of business. This is a colossal and devastating supply chain attack. At the time of this recording, the news is that President Biden and, of course, his security and cybersecurity advisors are looking into this. I don't believe it's confirmed or known that the attack is of Russian origin. And by the way, when it comes to all this, look, I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but even at the level of like everyday citizens, like private citizens, we all use VPNs, virtual private networks. So, I mean, it's never discussed in the media, but is it not the easiest thing in the world to frame like a Russian hacker? Like you could be conducting this attack. Maybe you're an anarchist, or maybe, I don't know, you have some chip on your shoulder, you have some vendetta, and you're responsible for this attack. You're sitting in New Hampshire, or you're sitting in Rhode Island, or whatever. Insert New England, like your favorite state or something. And you just set your VPN to reflect that it's Moscow. So when the feds and the FBI come after you, that is, as far as what the forensics say, and as far as what the internet, I guess not paper trail, but that's what the metrics would suggest, that you can see here IP address originating in Moscow. But can't everybody just effectively mask their IP address and project it via VPN? Maybe that's, not the level of sophistication I'm sure that these guys are working at, but that's where kind of my mind seems to go. I've never heard really a direct answer to that question. Anyways, President Biden is saying that they're not sure whether it's of Russian origin, but they're certainly looking into it. And just when you thought that we were starting to win that battle regarding sustainability, regarding green and renewable energy, you notice that the media kind of dropped away from that. They weren't fighting that fight any longer because I think they felt that, even right now, estimates are anywhere from 55 to 75% of Bitcoin's energy is derived from renewable sources. In the future, it's going to be much higher. And so maybe they felt like this is kind of actually a losing battle. This is not the hill that we want to die on. But just like that, it's amazing how quickly it happens. They have a new crusade. They have a new raison d'etre to fight Bitcoin and to fight those involved in cryptocurrency. Also on NPR.org, how Bitcoin has fueled ransomware attacks. Like I said, if the hackers, whether they're Russians or they're from New Hampshire, Rhode Island, whatever, if they ask for beachfront property in response to, as a payment request, you wouldn't come out with a FUD campaign against real estate, in the Hamptons or whatever. Like that just doesn't make sense. Bitcoin is not responsible for this. It just so happens that nefarious individuals, are attracted to it for the same reasons that they'd be attracted to cash and other currencies and other assets and maybe gold. Unfortunately, unfortunate as it may is, but that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is responsible in any way for this. It's not to say that the proliferation of Bitcoin leads necessarily to the proliferation of hacking. Causation and correlation are not the same thing. So this is a very opportunistic article. There are many such articles. NPR.com is just spreading more FUD. Quote, you now have the possibility to move millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency across national boundaries in seconds, said Yonatan Striem-Amit, a co-founder of CyberReason, a Boston-based company that offers protection from hackers. It really is a very powerful tool in the hands of criminals to perform money laundering, to shift currency from one state to another in a way that's, in a sense, untraceable and definitely uncontrollable. It's not untraceable. So for this individual to be a co-founder of some cybersecurity company, that's a shocking comment. Until recently, many cyber crimes involved the small-scale theft of individual credit cards or bank accounts. Quote, if we were talking 2 years ago, we would not be talking about Bitcoin. Yes, we would be, as being the dominant form of paying off ransom, said Hitesh Sheth, president of the cybersecurity company Vectra in San Jose, California. So you can kind of see the direction that we're moving in now. This is the new narrative that Bitcoin is going to be associated with these evil Russian ransomware attacks, these evil hackers, whether of Russian or other origin for that matter. But this is the new, in my opinion, sort of affiliation that they want to create. They want you to think of that connotation, right? The media is going to pound it into your head. Bitcoin hackers, Bitcoin ransomware, crypto criminals, right? Like, this is the new drumbeat that we're going to start hearing, that we're going to start seeing everywhere. It's going to proliferate very rapidly, in my opinion. Again, because if you extrapolate, the energy battle is not one that they can wage for even the short term, right? Things are actually really starting to look very positive for cryptocurrency at the level of proof of work mining and renewables and solar farms and all that kind of stuff. Well, here is the new narrative. They're never going to run out of FUD, which kind of brings me back to a stance that I expressed like a couple months ago now. It's like, why bother with these people? Who cares? Who cares with these people? Let's stop trying to pander to them. Let's stop trying to satiate their ridiculous, insatiable requests, because they are zombies. They're always going to keep coming at us. The horde is only going to grow. They are unstoppable. Let's ignore them. Let's seclude ourselves. Let's do our own thing, invest in our own futures, and disregard the FUD, because I can't stand it. And they're always going to come up with something else. Always. So as I explained, I'm a bigger fan or a bigger proponent, you could say, of news, major news stories, whether positive or negative, moving the price of cryptocurrency to the upside and to the downside. I trust in major news events and breaking news more than I do in chart analysis. In this case, we have the convergence of not only chart analysis, which I have to concede was applicable, but also those major news events in the form of the ransomware attacks. Because just, as it happened, coinciding with the ransomware attacks, you had the fact that Bitcoin was facing down huge resistance, and we met that resistance and broke down, unfortunately. Whether you're looking at the Bitcoin daily chart or the 4-hour chart, as you can see, these are some of the levels in that $35,000, $36,000 zone that we bounced right off of, unfortunately. And on its own, would we have had the momentum to break through? I don't know, maybe not. It depends on your thoughts about this whole Wyckoff distribution, right? But certainly when combined with the FUD that we saw out of the ransomware and this whole Bitcoin is for Russian criminal hackers narrative that we're now seeing, I think in conjunction with that, this was really enough to temporarily crash the prices across cryptocurrency, because this was major resistance. And right at the time when, you're kind of recruiting the energy to get up and over a major point of resistance, to be hit when, you're already struggling at that point with a major FUD attack with negative news is a losing proposition. And that's what happened here, in my opinion. You can read more about it on cryptopotato.com. Bitcoin price analysis. BTC dumps $2,000 after rejection at critical resistance. What's next? Well, actually, a lot of people are suggesting that what's next could be the fact that we continue to kind of consolidate here for a little while, but that ultimately Wyckoff will play out after, perhaps whether it's a few more days or a few more weeks, we're not so sure. But that seems to be the consensus that I've been looking at so far. I mean, any analyst out there will tell you one thing, and you'll literally have the opposite opinion from somebody else. I try to take kind of, let's call it the average or the median of opinions in that sense, which seems to be right now that, we'll go down a little bit, we'll bounce back up, and we'll consolidate a little bit before continuing to trend along that Wyckoff distribution. Ethereum addresses. Let's talk about some positive after all of this FUD. We're on gadgets.ndtv.com. We did talk about this the other day. Ethereum addresses have surpassed Bitcoin's for the first time. Bitcoin trades have again caught up and taken the lead. This is actually from today, the 5th of July, already 5th of July, crazy. Ether outpaced Bitcoin in the total number of transactions last week for the first time. Ether saw more daily active addresses, which is the number of active participants in the transfer of a cryptocurrency token. And this includes both the sender and the receiver. The growing number of active Ether addresses is a sign of how the token is growing in popularity, although Bitcoin addresses closed the gap soon enough. Quote here from Santiment, this is from the end of June. On a day that saw history be made with Ethereum surpassing Bitcoin in daily active addresses for the first time, altcoins came to play. KSM, Comp, and Zilliqa were among many projects to make an imprint on the markets, while Bitcoin ranged at about $34,500. And a lot of people, a lot of outlets, I should say, traditional and legacy media outlets are for the first, not the first time, but you'll note that they're talking about Ethereum much more favorably than Bitcoin lately. Forbes is just one example. Ethereum just surpassed Bitcoin in a key milestone as major upgrades help spur its prices higher. This is from a couple of days ago, but there are many, many, many such examples. And I kind of feel, going back to this idea or this hypothesis, that we're going to continue to range for a little while in the midst of all this ransomware fallout. There's this whole new level of FUD now that we're going to be hit with, unfortunately. So I would suggest, to start bracing for that. But in the midst of all this, yeah, Ethereum's down a little bit, but I don't think Ethereum is going to wait for Bitcoin. If Ethereum is sort of in the mix of things, if it's getting ready and gearing up for Ethereum 2.0, its transition from proof of work to proof of stake is still something that's front and center. I don't think that Ethereum is going to wait for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin takes several weeks or a couple of months to kind of get its act together, I think Ethereum really does have a strong chance to potentially even lead the cryptocurrency market as a whole out of this funk, out of this lull that we find ourselves in. So right now, as per the dominance of the two leading crypto assets, BTC at 43.5%, Ethereum at 17.8%. Don't forget, recently the ratio was kind of 2-to-1. So Bitcoin being twice as dominant as Ethereum, closer to 40 and 20% respectively. I would first watch out for a return to those levels, or at least a trend that would be moving in that direction. So I think we're going to get closer to that 2-to-1 ratio, Bitcoin's dominance being twice that of Ethereum's over the course of the next couple of weeks. But I do feel that regardless of how the dominance plays out, I don't want to be too critical at the level of what the numbers look like. I really do feel that Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin, given, again, kind of the timbre of the coverage that we're seeing lately, also in conjunction with all the positive upgrades. I think Ethereum does have an opportunity right now to detach itself a little bit from Bitcoin and perhaps lead the market into some new areas, some new kind of weeks in the days and the weeks ahead, into some new prosperity. Let's see. Can't be certain, and it's more of just a gut feeling, perhaps. I think 2,500 is going to be a very key level. And then if we get to 3,000, of course, that's going to be monumental as well. Let me know your thoughts about that, guys, in the comments below. But that about wraps it up for today. So do be sure you're following us on all the regular social media channels. That includes Twitter, that includes Facebook, that includes Telegram as well, where we have a trade signals group. It's not financial advice. It's actually more like a collective discussion, but we do talk about trade signals, chart analysis, altcoin project updates. I always pin that to the top of the comments section below, so check that out. None of this is financial advice, but hey, if you do choose to invest, I wish you all the very best of luck, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell to receive notifications if you enjoyed today's video. Stay safe, and as always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next one. Take care.